Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the UK government reinstates winter fuel payments for the majority of pensioners in England and Wales. But where does the announcement leave the Scottish Government's plans for a smaller, devolved payment that could see Scots receive less?
If England or the UK government's making that decision, Scotland's always colder, it's always wetter.
We'll break down the figures and explain what pensioners here can expect, also on tonight's programme.
The longer it goes on, you're struggling. Your mental health starts to go, your health can go.
We speak to residents in Tillicoultry left in limbo after their homes were deemed off limits because of potentially dangerous concrete. Stagecoach drivers in the west of Scotland begin a 6-week walkout as a row over pay intensifies. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Monday's programme. It's a U-turn we've known has been coming for a while. The UK government today unveiled how it is rolling back on its changes to winter fuel payments for pensioners. Here, the Scottish Government had already announced a devolved benefit. But the Chancellor's announcement today means, as things stand, some pensioners living here would receive less than they would if they were in England and Wales. That may yet be addressed at Holyrood, with extra money now coming from Westminster. We're going to break down the figures in just a moment, but first here's our Westminster correspondent, Rajdeep Sandhu.
It was one of the very first decisions taken by the Labour government to limit who got financial help to keep them warm last winter. Now that same government has backtracked after months of political pressure. Peter and his wife live in Coatbridge. They took the UK and Scottish government to court. He says their actions highlighted the issue to both governments.
I think pensioners do have a voice and should have a voice, and that we should be pursuing those things. And, you know, pensioners are a force to be reckoned with, both now and in the future. Governments will find that, you know, the experience that pensioners have gathered over the years make them the kind of perfect people for challenging.
The Chancellor today was keen to mingle with those affected, painting her decision as less of a U-turn and more of an exercise in listening.
We've listened to people's concerns around the level of the mean test, and because of changes we've made and the stability we've brought back to the economy, we are able to increase that amount, and we will set out in the normal way in the budget how everything is funded.
Today's announcement directly affects those living in England and Wales. In Scotland, there's a separate system. Every pensioner household, regardless of how much they earn, will get £100 and potentially up to £300 if on certain benefits and over the age of 80. Labour says that needs to change.
The SNP's current policy robs poorer pensioners to fund payments for millionaires. So does my honourable friend agree that the SNP must now re-examine their own policy?
If they want to have a fairer system that means tests the winter fuel payment and the equivalent in Scotland from those on the highest incomes, then HMRC is ready to support that.
The Scottish Government say they weren't consulted ahead of the announcement and need more detail.
What we can see from the scant detail that has been released is that it is a partial U-turn, 9 million pensioners receiving it. It's an overdue U-turn, but it's certainly not a reinstatement of what happened before.
Ahead of this winter, the politicians have promised millions of pensioners help to heat their homes. But there are still questions whether after today, what's been promised in Scotland might change. Rajdeep Sandhu, reporting Scotland.
OK, with me now is our political correspondent David Wallace-Lockhart. And David, just talk us through this because it can get quite complicated. What can pensioners in Scotland expect to receive compared with elsewhere in the UK?
So we're going to focus on the minimum a household can get. If someone's on pension credit, they will get more. But for simplicity's sake, let's look at the minimum people will get in Scotland compared to England and Wales. So the Scottish system, as it stands, means every pensioner household was going to get a minimum of £100 this winter. Now, that is a universal payment. Let's look at the changes for England and Wales that the UK government has announced today. Their payments aren't universal. They're for pensioners with an income of under £35,000, but those households will get a minimum payment of £200. So Scotland's system is universal, but less generous as things stand for pensioners who earn less than £35,000 and aren't getting pension credit. Now, the Treasury says that the changes they've announced today will result in an extra £250 million of funding for Scotland. That is more than enough for the Scottish Government to make their system more generous, on a par with England and Wales, even on a universal basis. But of course, Scottish ministers get to decide what this money is spent on, and there will be plenty of elements of public services at the moment calling out for some of that extra cash.
Yeah, we'll wait to see how the detail of that evolves. But politically speaking, how damaging has this policy and the subsequent U-turn been for Labour at Westminster?
Well, it's not been great optics for them. They are saying now that they have stabilised the economic situation and that's allowing them to make this change. But if you're completely changing where you went with this policy just after a year or so from announcing that big cut, it does suggest that you feel like you got something wrong. Now, the point in a U-turn is to get yourself going back in the right direction. The UK government may feel they've done that now. They may hope that with a general election still many years away, that this will fade in the mind of voters before then. Not quite as simple as that in Scotland, because of course we've got a Scottish parliamentary election next year. This has been a big issue in Scottish politics, and it may well be the case that this whole debacle has not faded in the mind of Scottish voters by the time they go to the polls next year.
OK, David, thank you. Homeowners who were forced to vacate their flats over potentially dangerous concrete, known as RAAC, say they're still in the dark over what's happening with the building 18 months on. The residents in Tillicoultry in Clackmannanshire have been protesting today, highlighting the toll the uncertainty has taken on them since the material was discovered in their roofs. They've accused councils and the Scottish and UK governments of passing the buck on the problem, affecting thousands of homes across the country. Stephen Gordon reports.
To see it like this now is a shame. It's a shame.
Jimmy Valance owned his Tillicoultry flat for decades without any problems, until October 2023, when he and wife Fiona were given 2 hours' notice to leave after RAAC was discovered in the roof. Months living in temporary accommodation against the backdrop of uncertainty has taken its toll.
And as I say, the longer it goes on, you're struggling. Your mental health starts to go, your health can go, and it just really, talking about it now, even talking about it now, it gets
Potentially dangerous RAAC concrete, a building material widely used between the 1950s and 80s, was found in 3 blocks of flats in Tillicoultry. What happens to them isn't clear, the discussion shifting from demolition to repair.
If it's repaired, then we've got to find the money for the repair. Do I get loans? Do we get a loan for the council? Do we get take a loan? I don't know, we've not got a mortgage, but we go for a bank. And at the end of the day, I'm in a situation, I haven't got the finances to that.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it?
No! Clackmannanshire Council says it's committed to working with homeowners on the issue of RAAC, but the protest outside Council HQ today highlighted the residents' frustration. As the Housing Minister met with RAAC-affected residents in Dundee, there was also a plea for him to visit Tillicoultry.
We were the only ones that were evacuated from our properties. Everybody else is still staying in their RAAC properties. So I want them to come and see the impact from the very first night that we were evicted to how we are now.
Our commitment to meet residents and groups all over Scotland to look at that will continue to push UK government on that particular matter as well, because this is a UK issue. This was going back 40, 50 years before the Scottish Parliament was even set up, so we'll continue to push the UK government to set up the RAAC fund.
The UK government says building safety is for the Scottish government. Residents argue they're all passing the buck. Now settled in a rented bungalow, Jimmy says life is much better. But what he needs now is a resolution.
We need it finished, and I need to walk away. I can't deal with all this hassle, and it has took its toll.
Stephen Gordon reporting Scotland, Tillicoultry.
Sextortion is a worrying reality in a digital age. It's a form of online blackmail where intimate images or videos are used to coerce victims, and the fallout can be devastating. Well, now, with the summer holidays approaching, a new school resource has been launched in a bid to help keep young people safe. Ben Phillip reports.
Sextortion can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter.
It's a modern-day form of blackmail. This video has been released ahead of the summer holidays to help young people understand, recognise and respond to sextortion. It was shown to pupils at Meldrum Academy in Aberdeenshire this morning.
In recent years, an increasing number of young people have fallen victim to sextortion. Victims are typically enticed to sending intimate photos and videos of themselves to a stranger they've befriended online, who then threatens to make them public unless they pay money.
There were more than 1,500 reports of sextortion in Scotland last year, 32% down on 2023. But police have previously expressed fears that the crime is underreported because victims are too scared or embarrassed to come forward.
A huge percentage of the victims of sextortion are young males, predominantly that sort of 16 to 17-year-old age group, but they have seen an increase in younger girls being victim as well. I think it's about having that continual conversation with your young people, making sure that they know that their online life is very much part of their home life as well.
Sextortion can be a difficult topic to discuss. It's hoped this video can start conversations to hopefully prevent it from happening.
I definitely think it's a really, really big issue, especially with younger people, because the younger you are, the more vulnerable you can be.
I am quite worried because if you get messaged by someone and you're lonely and you think, oh, finally I've got someone to talk to, but it turns out they're not the person you think they are. They're some random guy trying to get photos of you. It's quite bad.
These are some warning signs to look out for.
Victim advice from experts is to stay calm, never pay or comply, and report the crime. Those behind this video say anyone targeted isn't at fault and help is available. Ben Phillip, reporting Scotland, Old Meldrum.
The news at 7 is on a bit later tonight because of the football. Laura McKeever is still here to tell us more though. Laura, what's happening tonight?
We're talking about blood donation tonight, Laura. There's an appeal to get more people out there donating, and especially younger Scots, because the numbers are lower among them. We'll also be going over this winter fuel payments story with the charity Age Scotland to hopefully try and understand a bit more about what might happen here. And of course the football match is on. Lewis will be going over the results with Lyndon Dykes tonight live.
We shall wait to hear all about that then, Laura. Thank you very much. To some of the day's other stories now. And the family of teenager Cole Cooper, who was missing for 4 weeks, have said their worst fears have become a reality after the discovery of a body. Police notified the 19-year-old's relatives after the body was found in a wooded area near Cole's home in the village of Banknock near Falkirk on Friday afternoon. In a statement, Cole's family, who had planned a fresh search for Sunday, said they were completely broken following the news. 2 vehicles were set on fire in Edinburgh this morning, with police investigating whether they are linked to an ongoing gangland feud. Emergency services were called to a property on Niddry Marischal Crescent just before 4 this morning after a Ford Transit van went up in flames. 5 minutes later, a Range Rover Evoque was found alight about half a mile away on Campion Road. Both incidents are being treated as suspicious. And a former physics teacher whose sexually explicit OnlyFans profile was seen by school pupils has been struck off. Kirsty Buchan from Coatbridge in North Lanarkshire posted pictures of herself on the website, which were then shared among pupils at her school, Bannerman High. The General Teaching Council for Scotland found her behaviour lacked integrity. Miss Buchan didn't take part in the hearing, saying the council had clearly already made their mind up on her case. Now, it is the first day of 6 weeks of non-stop strike action by bus drivers in Ayrshire as part of a long-running dispute over pay. And there doesn't appear to be any end in sight in the row between Stagecoach and drivers with Unite, the union. It means there's no service at all on many routes and a reduced service on others. Our news correspondent Jamie McIver has been hearing how this is affecting those who rely on the bus.
This social club is usually bustling. It's a lifeline for some pensioners in Kilmarnock, but today it was quieter than normal. Some couldn't make it because their bus wasn't running.
This is normally one of our busiest days. We have a free bingo today, and we normally have about 28 to 30 people in. But this is how the bus strikes affect us. People just can't manage it.
And some who did make it were concerned for those stuck at home.
This is once a week, and
It's a highlight for a lot of these people when they get together and just sit and play dominoes and whatever, but they're communicating, they're socialising, and that's just taken away from people.
Outside the bus station, another protest. These drivers could be off work for 6 weeks. Their union says Stagecoach is offering 4% with strings. Stagecoach says their offer is fair and argues drivers would be earning almost £30,000 a year within months. The effect of the bus strike is being felt here in Kilmarnock and around Ayrshire and Arran. The worst effect is likely to be on those who rely on the buses, people who don't have cars. Kerry Brown travels from Kilmarnock to nearby Stewarton every day for work.
It's costing me money. I've paid out £88 for a bus ticket for the month, and now, because there's no buses, I'm going to have to fork out for a train to get me to and from work, which I can't afford.
And effectively you're paying twice?
Yeah.
Jim Wilson has been seriously ill and has been spending money on taxis to get into town.
It affects me bad because I'm up to town every day. Aye, I'm up to town every day, and as I say, it's affected me. I'm just no longer by the hospital with a heart attack. So, that's it.
Back at the social club, they're just hoping for a resolution soon. Tonight that prospect still seems far off. There's no sign of any progress towards a settlement. Jamie McIver, reporting Scotland, Ayrshire.
Conservation groups are calling for 30% of Scotland's inland waters to be protected from fishing methods which cause damage to the seabed. The Our Seas Coalition says the restrictions are necessary to allow the seabed to recover from bottom trawling and dredging. The Scottish Fishermen's Federation says a balance needs to be struck. It comes as governments gather in the south of France for the UN Oceans Conference with a focus on protecting the world's seas. Here's our environment correspondent Kevin Keane.
A greater variety of life may seem hard to imagine.
He's known for showing us the world's most weird and wonderful creatures, and this time it's our seas that David Attenborough has had in his sights.
It has remained hidden from view until now.
And the damaging impact of bottom trawling and dredging is shown in his latest film, Ocean. These are practices used off Scotland's coast, where the nets scoop up everything in its path. It's like ploughing the seabed.
The last dive that we did on it.
Don and Howard began diving together off Arran in the early 1980s and became concerned by what they were noticing.
We started to see the damage that was being caused and realised that unless we can bring up these images to show people what damage is being done, people wouldn't understand.
They began filming the changes and campaigned for fishing to be banned here.
It seemed to us to such a simple solution. Let's have a small area of seabed, let's exclude scallop dredging and other fishing or whatever, and then just see what happens.
Since then, the sea life has returned in abundance, and Don's story featured on David Attenborough's Ocean film. They're backing calls for bottom trawling and dredging to be banned from 30% of Scotland's inshore waters. And that call is supported by low-impact fishermen like Duncan, who lays traps on the seabed to catch his haul. He believes industrial-scale fishing needs to be reconsidered.
There has been almost no management of our inshore fisheries. It has been a free-for-all. And you can't blame the fishermen that enjoyed that free-for-all. They were allowed to. They were told to go and fish, so they went and fished, and that was it. So, but we have to look at things in a modern context now.
The mobile fishing industry says banning big boats would be disproportionate.
I think it's important to remember that all forms of food production have to have some kind of impact, and you can't have food production without some impact. So it's about, let's continue to produce food from our seas, let's continue to fish in the areas that we've always fished, and let's continue to strive for that balance between conservation and food production.
Getting that balance right is no easy task, but it's one of the things governments will be discussing this week at those UN talks in France. Kevin Keane reporting, Scotland, Arran.
To some disappointing news now, though, for Glasgow Warriors and Scotland prop Xander Fagerson, who has been ruled out of the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia with a calf injury. The 29-year-old last featured for Glasgow in early April and was absent as they lost Saturday's United Rugby Championship playoff semi-final to Leinster in Dublin. The tight head, seen here when he was selected to tour South Africa with the Lions in 2021, has been capped more than 70 times by Scotland. Brilliant stuff. To cycling now. And two-time Olympic silver medalist Nia Evans says she gets goosebumps when she thinks about how special the atmosphere could be at next summer's Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. The 34-year-old only turned professional as an athlete in 2017, so didn't compete when they were last in the city in 2014. Indeed, she only got into track cycling that year because her dad booked her onto a taster session at the Sir Chris Hoy Velodrome.
If this velodrome hadn't been built for the 2014 Commonwealth Games, I wouldn't be a cyclist. I would still be working as a very different career path. So I always, when people talk about legacy and these kind of buzzwords, normally you kind of go, oh yeah, but does it actually work? Yes, it does. I am testament to that.
And finally, Andy Murray described it as a surreal moment to open the centre court named after him at Queen's Club today. The Scot watched some of his finest moments back on the big screen at the Andy Murray Arena before being given a guard of honour ahead of having a few shots on court with two local school kids. He also did apologise to the crowd though, saying his tennis is diabolical after retiring.
A number of tennis courts around the world that we play on are kind of named after great players, and I always loved going. Like in Australia, a lot of the the big courts are named after ex greats there. And yeah, I always enjoyed that. So yeah, it feels a bit strange to have a court named after you. But yeah, obviously I have lots of amazing memories at this place, and particularly on that court. It's by far, my most successful tournament that I competed in, and yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yeah, diabolical tennis. I think his standards are maybe quite high.
Yeah, and I think his golf's got better by all
yeah, I'm
accounts.
sure
So,
it has, Laura, yeah.
pros and cons. Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you.
Christopher, how's the weather looking this
It's going
new
to
week?
get better.
Oh, good.
Because today was a bit great, wasn't it? Instantly recognisable skyline there of Covent Grove Art Gallery Museum in Glasgow. Much brighter conditions on the way tomorrow.
Good.
Thanks very much indeed. Getting into, yes, we've had quite a grey day, but a colourful backdrop there to lift things. But let's take a look at the menu of the weather for the week ahead. Next 24 hours, rain clears to high pressure tomorrow, and then midweek, warmth. We've got a southerly wind delivering that. And then the end of the week, some pretty heavy downpours in the forecast. So an awful lot going on over the next few days. Back to the here and now. We've still got all that rain around, but it is clearing out towards the North Sea as we head through the course of this evening and overnight, leaving us with a drier picture, a cloudy picture, 1 or 2 showers. That cloud will then thin and break by the end of the night. Temperatures relatively mild, 7 to 11 degrees. And because that cloud is thinning and breaking, it's a much brighter day in prospect tomorrow. A few showers first thing, but actually, as we head through towards the afternoon, plenty of sunshine on offer. And despite the winds coming in from the northwest, temperature-wise, up to around the mid to high teens, which is close to average really for the time of year. So pretty decent day all told, certainly compared with what we've had today. Those showers with us initially, but clearing away in towards the afternoon, 1 or 2 holding on, and a fair afternoon across Orkney and Shetland as well. As we head into tomorrow evening, a warm front moves north with some outbreaks of patchy rain towards the far northwest and thickening cloud. But actually, midweek on Wednesday, we've got winds now coming in from the south, so much milder, if not warmer air moving up. Initially fairly cloudy, that warm front producing some fairly thick cloud in the west, patchy rain moving north. Elsewhere dry, sunshine developing, temperatures climbing. Afternoon highs up to around 22 degrees. Not bad at all. And then beyond that, for the end of the week, this is Thursday now, we've got this unstable plume moving its way northwards. That means rain, really, and some heavy thundery downpours with it too. But it's still an east-west split. So in the west, that's where the focus of the wet weather will be. Dry in the east, a humid field for all, and similar sort of fare on Friday too. Sunshine tomorrow, though. That's the forecast.
Thank you, Chris. And that is Reporting Scotland. The late news is at 10:30. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.